Imagine for just a moment that every decision you've ever made, every path you've ever taken, already exists. That your future isn't waiting to unfold, but is instead already written somewhere in the vast structure of space-time. What if the flow of time we experience is nothing more than an illusion, a trick played by the brain to help us make sense of reality? This isn't science fiction. It's one of the most debated, mind-bending questions in modern physics. Has the future already happened? To understand this paradox, we have to step away from our everyday perception of time. In daily life, time seems to move in one direction, past to present to future. You wake up, you go about your day, things happen, and then the day ends. But physics paints a very different picture. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time doesn't flow like a river. It's more like a frozen block, a four-dimensional structure that contains every moment that ever was and ever will be. This idea is known as the block universe theory. In this view, the past, present, and future all coexist simultaneously. The only difference is where your consciousness happens to be within that structure. In other words, from a physical standpoint, the future isn't something that's going to happen. It's something that already exists. This means that your first day at school, this very moment you're listening, and your last breath could all exist at once in this eternal cosmic timeline. Time, as we know it, isn't flowing. We are simply moving through it. The implications of this are staggering. It suggests that free will, as we understand it, might not be real. If the future already exists, then the choices we think we're making in real time have already been made. Einstein himself once famously said, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." In his view, death wasn't the end, because time doesn't move forward. Everything that ever happened continues to exist in space-time. For him, when someone dies, they're not gone. They're simply located in a different part of the block. But let's dig deeper. Modern physics continues to test this idea with increasingly precise experiments. Quantum mechanics, the science of the very small, adds even more strangeness to the question. At the quantum level, particles don't behave in a strictly linear, predictable way. Instead, they exist in probabilities. They could be in multiple states at once until they're observed. This has led to interpretations suggesting that reality itself might not have a definite form until it's experienced. And some experiments hint that decisions made in the present could influence what happens in the past. Take the famous delayed choice experiment, first proposed by physicist John Wheeler. In simple terms, it suggests that whether a particle acts like a wave or a solid point depends on how we choose to observe it, even if that choice is made after the particle has already passed through a detector. It's as though the future decision reaches backward in time and changes what already happened. In this strange quantum world, cause and effect aren't so clear-cut anymore. Time doesn't just move forward, it seems to loop, fold, and twist. So what does this mean for us? Are we living in a predetermined timeline, walking through a universe that's already written from beginning to end? Or is there still room for true choice, for change, for destiny? Some physicists argue that the block universe doesn't necessarily mean we lack free will. Think of it like a movie reel. Every frame of the film exists simultaneously, from start to finish. But the story still unfolds for the characters inside it. To them, it feels like they're making decisions and moving forward in time, even though from an outside perspective, the entire movie already exists. In this sense, our perception of moving through time might be the product of consciousness scanning through the frames of reality one by one. Interestingly, neuroscientists have started exploring how the brain perceives time, and they're finding that it's not a simple process. Research from institutions like MIT and Stanford suggests that our brains are not passive recorders of time. They're active creators of it. The mind stitches together experiences into a narrative, giving us the sense of motion and sequence. This means that time might be more of a mental construct than an objective feature of the universe. When your brain processes reality, it creates the illusion of now. But that now may not exist in the physical sense. Even more fascinating is research in the field of precognition. The idea that humans might have the ability to sense future events before they happen. While highly controversial, studies have shown subtle but measurable physiological responses, like changes in heart rate or skin conductivity, occurring seconds before unpredictable events. Some scientists dismiss this as statistical noise, But others suggest it might be evidence that consciousness isn't bound by linear time. That, on some level, we're already connected to the future. In the world of philosophy, thinkers are revisiting ancient ideas in light of these discoveries. The concept that time is an illusion isn't new. Eastern philosophies such as Buddhism and Hinduism have long proposed that past, present, and future are part of a single, timeless reality. The ancient Sanskrit phrase kalamaya translates, "To time is an illusion." What's new is that modern physics and neuroscience are beginning to echo these same insights through data and experiments. But there's another dimension to consider, the emotional one. If the future already exists, then so does every joy, every heartbreak, every success you'll ever experience. That might sound fatalistic, but it can also be deeply comforting. It means that somewhere in the fabric of time, every good moment is still happening. The laughter of a loved one, the warmth of a childhood memory, they're not gone. They're simply located elsewhere in the eternal structure of space-time. From this perspective, death loses some of its sting. The moments we lose aren't erased. They're preserved. Now let's consider a radical implication from quantum physics, the idea of retrocausality, where the future influences the past. Experiments like the quantum eraser have demonstrated that our observations in the present can seemingly rewrite the history of a particle's behavior. If that's true, it suggests that the arrow of time, the idea that cause leads to effect, may not be absolute. In the deep structure of the universe, time might be symmetrical. What we call the past and future could simply be different perspectives on the same whole. There's even research exploring whether consciousness itself exists outside of time. Some theories in quantum neuroscience propose that the brain acts as a receiver of consciousness rather than its creator, similar to how a radio receives a signal. If that's the case, then consciousness could theoretically exist independently of the body, and perhaps even outside the bounds of time altogether. In that framework, past and future might simply be coordinates that awareness can tune into, rather than destinations we travel toward. This leads us to the most profound question of all. If time is an illusion, what is reality? Perhaps the universe isn't a story being told from beginning to end, but an eternal tapestry where every thread, every moment, exists simultaneously. Our minds, limited by the structure of biology, can only perceive one strand at a time, creating the sensation of movement. But in truth, the tapestry never moves. It simply is. Futurists and physicists are beginning to embrace a new concept called temporal non-locality, the idea that information might not be bound by time. This could explain phenomena like intuition, synchronicity, or déjà vu, moments when it feels like the future is whispering to the present. Imagine then that what we call imagination might actually be perception, a glimpse into events that already exist but haven't yet unfolded in our conscious timeline. Even the mathematics of modern cosmology supports this timeless perspective. In Einstein's equations, time isn't a fundamental property of the universe. It emerges from relationships between matter and energy. Remove those interactions and time itself disappears. Some theoretical physicists, like Carlo Rovelli, propose that time is not a basic ingredient of reality at all. It's a side effect of the way we measure change. In Rovelli's loop quantum gravity, the universe isn't ticking forward. It's static, eternal, and complete. So did the future already happen? According to the best science we have, the answer might be yes, at least from a cosmic perspective. But for you, the experiencer, time remains real. It's the stage on which your consciousness plays its part, moment by moment. The paradox of time lies not in physics, but in perception. We live in a timeless universe, yet our minds demand a story. Perhaps the future is not waiting for us. Perhaps we're already there. We just haven't arrived yet in awareness. Every thought, every emotion, every dream might already exist, shimmering somewhere in the great expanse of space-time, waiting for consciousness to catch up. And when it does, we call it the present. So the next time you look at the clock and see the seconds ticking by, remember, those ticks aren't carrying you forward. They're simply marking your place in an infinite, already written symphony. The melody of time doesn't move, it echoes. And somewhere, In a universe where every possibility already exists, the future has already happened. We're just remembering it in reverse.
If you find this video informative, please hit the like button, subscribe this channel and feel free to share your comments.